Hello, Yakri here with another Warframe video. Despite appearances, this video is going to be about Chroma and his changes. Now, up front, I want to say I'm not really a big fan of them because I liked how much damage Chroma did before, rather a lot, and he's also not that tanky now. Certainly not the king of non-invulnerable tanks, right? So, here's the thing. There's a post on Reddit that I thought was, pretty well thought out until I tested a couple things on it. I think they're sort of semi-accurate mostly, but a little bit deceptive, right? So this is the Chroma's Vex armor calculation. Seriously, needs another look again. I'll link it in the video description for the people coming just from YouTube here, if you want to take a look at it. And it's mostly accurate, but it talks about other Warframe abilities that have a similar type of damage boost to what Chroma had before, right? A multiplicative damage boost, which is much more valuable than an additive damage boost. Now, here's the thing. I'm not really sure that it's really fair to compare a lot of these abilities. So he mentions Saren's Venom Dose, Frost's Freeze Force, Ember's Fireball Frenzy, Volt's Shock Trooper, and Oberon's Smite Infusion buffs. Now, here's the thing. Those are all augment buffs, which is inherently less good than an inherent ability, right? Because you have to take up an extra mod slot for it, and B, you have to put them on your allies. You can't put them on yourself, last time I checked. Now, Ember's Flash Accelerant is also mentioned. That's an exception. Ember's Flash Accelerant does affect Ember. However, there's two notable things about that, and we'll show what this results in a bit. And that's that Flash Accelerant is only fire damage, right? It doesn't amplify whatever damage type you've put on your weapon. And Ember's Flash Accelerant is only a 50% baseline bonus. You can get up to around 100%, right? And it's multiplied by one of her other abilities, which is Accelerant itself, which I believe is also multiplicative, just like Molecular Prime is. And there's something, though, that kind of is seen in some of the other abilities that are going to be mentioned in a bit, which is that they're not really the same type of ability or as powerful as Vex armor is, right? So we've also got Rhino's Roar, Mirage's Eclipse mentioned, and I think that one's just actually incorrect. Mirage's Hall of Mirrors, I believe that's correct, a little bit deceptive because Hall of Mirrors works in a very different way. Avara's Navigator, again, same kind of deal. Avara's Prowl, that's probably a fair comparison. Volt's Electric Shield and Chroma's Old Vex Armor, Saren's Toxic Lash, Nova AMD, Nova Molecular Prime. AMD, is he talking antimatter drop? That's not quite the same at all. And Banshee's Sonar, right? So here's the thing. Most of these abilities have two things in common. They work totally differently, like Avara's Navigator, right? Navigator has to, takes a ton of time to move it around and actually hit an enemy with it, right? Barely even useful even when Tonker was OP, and I used to do it with that. Prowl has to land headshots. Volt's Electric Shield, you have to shoot through his shield, and you have to shock the shield to charge it, and then it's like bonus damage on crits or something. Toxic Lash, low base power, right? Much lower base power than what Vex armor gets. AMD and M Prime. I'm just going to talk about M Prime, right? M Prime is very good. It's not probably as good as Vex armor is right now, though. Even after the changes. And Banshee's Sonar, while much more powerful than any other ability mentioned, still requires you to hit weak points to a certain extent. And Banshee is very fragile. Her whole kit kind of compensates for how good Sonar is, right? Now, let's talk about, first we're going to cover, we're going to go do Eclipse, Rhino Roar, Ember's Flash Accelerant, and then we're going to look at Chroma himself. So, to begin with, this is supposed to be a multiplicative ability. I've got 488%. This should be much more powerful than the 600 or so Vex armor I'm going to get on Chroma later. Far more powerful. Now, I'm going to tell you ahead of time that I was killing enemies in 2 to 3 hits with Chroma and Vex armor, right? So let's see how this goes here. All right, 1, 2. I mean, there's some RNG in it, right? So it varies a bit. 3, 4. Okay. 1. Oops. 2. 3. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 2, I already hit him before, though. Okay, let's try this again. 1, 2. I have to renew this. 3. Okay. So, well, one guy I nicked before, managed to get him in 2 hits, but really it should have been 3. And the thing is that I would expect to one-shot these guys if Eclipse was actually significantly better than Vex Armor, right? It's about 488% Eclipse is about similar results to 600% Vex Armor. That heavily implies that it is not multiplicative, but is in fact about the same amount of it's additive, basically, right? And 100% less, and it's just that given the amount of damage I'm doing per shot, that it's lost in the rounding of the shots, right? So I'm getting more reliably 3 shots, and I'm never getting any lucky 2 shots where I get a little bit more crits than usual. Okay, and so it's doing about the same. It should be one-shotting these guys if it was multiplicative, right? Not off of base damage. So let's look at Rhino, right? And Rhino's, I do think, is correctly multiplicative. It's just that it's not a big enough percentage, right? So let me check my Rhino build really quick here to show this off. So I've got, no, this is the wrong build. 244% power strength. We're gonna do, is this the one? I think this is the one I was gonna do. Was it? Yeah. So this is kind of messy, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. I've got the most power strength I can get. Let's simulate a couple enemies. We'll do 4. All right. So I'm gonna go and get trigger growing power on one of these guys, and then work on the other ones. All right. We've got 135% roar. I'm not even going to use growing power on Chroma because I actually need to reform him. So look at this. 2, 3, 4. All right. 1, 2. Oh, actually, that's pretty good. 1, 2, 3. All right. I already hit this guy once before, but 1, 2, and it ticks down. So I call that about, might have ticked down with 2, might have taken 3, but so 2 to 3 hits is actually about on par with Chroma. All right, so it is multiplicative. That's fine. That's a fair point, but it's not more powerful than what Chroma's new ability is. Which like I said, I'm gonna get to that, and we'll show that off, and I'll prove to you that Chroma does about the similar range of damage, not necessarily the same. I will say that overall, Roar has the notable distinction of boosting Warframe abilities, making it the most useful ability I'm going to be showing off, like in general, out of any Warframe here, right? But that is like kind of another discussion. I'm mostly focusing on weapon damage because that's what Chroma did previously and can do. And keep in mind, I'm not 100% disagreeing with the points about him being, whatchamacallit, Accelerant. All right, so Accelerant should, I think I've got this with the growing power, so this should go up to like over 6 times, right? So let's see here. Got pretty much the same power strength on all of these builds. Yeah, 6.3. So let's shoot him again to get growing power going. All right. And we've got Flash Accelerant at 126%. And we're going to shoot this guy, but we're going to ignore him. We just want growing power on again. And actually, no, it doesn't matter because I already cast it. 1, 2, 3. All right. 1, 2, 3. All right, you get the picture. So we'll talk about this a little bit more because it takes a bit of canoodling to get to the values of how this works with Ember. So I think that was my 3rd shot. I wasn't really counting. It's a video though, so you probably could have counted if you want to. Point is actually about in line with what I'm going to do on Chroma, maybe a little bit worse, right? So here's the thing. Let's look at my Ember build. Double check this really quick. 229% power strength, a little bit lower. I need to form her a couple more times. Oh, right, with growing power, it's actually going to be higher than what I'll end up using on Chroma. And the end result is you get this Accelerant. You get Flash Accelerant is about 120%, and it's going to be multiplied by 6.3, right? So that's 120. We're rounding it a little bit. Let's do 6.3, and that's 756% bonus damage, right? Multiplicative. Yeah, so that's pretty good, but it doesn't actually significantly outperform Chroma. Why is that? Well, I think largely it's because it's fire damage, right? And I'm also actually multiplying this heat damage that's on the Sancti Tigris baseline, so I'm actually a little surprised it didn't outperform Chroma. I kind of expected to one-shot these guys, but I guess that's the downside of heat damage. It's still about on par with Chroma's current buff, which is actually quite good, although it just doesn't make... utility, I mentioned this in my talk about Chroma right when he was reworked, it doesn't make utility weapons into monstrous like damage beasts, right? So let's I guess I should actually have gone in here. Let's see. So let's take a look at my Chroma build. Make sure I got the right one. Yeah, 244% power strength, a little bit higher base because I've got the XLS slot filled. And I've actually changed my build up from what it normally is to include narrow-minded just for convenience. But, I mean, nothing really matters except power strength for this testing, right? And that I could get the power strength normally, which I do. So this is going to get me up to 671% damage increase, about 100% less than Ember was getting. But Ember's damage increase is supposed to be multiplicative, right? So it ought to be quite a bit better. Let's see here. Let's unpause the AI. This is going to be a little bit tricky because these guys actually kind of will wreck Chroma at this. Oh, I didn't want to spawn that many. Sorry. They're gonna wreck me at this tier. I believe some people have mentioned that like fire is now stronger, but I haven't had time to actually work into optimizing my defense. I've just been kind of testing this. So, oh wait, wasn't actually up there yet. Fuck. I'll have to do it. We'll have to do another round anyway. So let's do 1, 2, 3. Actually, it did underperform compared to some other abilities, but I should be able to get a lucky hit in here with the right combination of procs and crits and two-shot them occasionally. That's what I was getting on testing earlier. So, as you can see, the longest it's taken me to kill any enemy with anyone was through 4 shots. Fuck, I can't remember who that was on, but alright, still got my Vex Armor bonus from earlier. Oh, I fucked up. I should have spawned so many. Alright. Let's kill the enemies. Simulate 2 enemies. Over here. Pop Vex Armor on. Alright. One. What? Really? Wish he had some status resistance. 2. Alright, there we go. Got the lucky hit. 1. 2. It's not even that lucky, actually. So he frequently outperforms rather a lot of the people that that you can encounter, right? Or that you can have been mentioned, right? As alternatives to Chroma. Let's see, am I missing anything? Oh yeah, we should probably cover Molecular Prime as well, right? Molecular Prime is definitely multiplicative because it applies after all other bonuses because it's on the enemy. So damage they take, whatever that is multiplied by 2. So is double damage better than what Chroma's doing? It's not. That's my spoiler alert for you, unsurprisingly. And that's the thing what I'm trying to kind of argue for here, is that although some of these abilities, there are other abilities in the game that are multiplicative, there aren't abilities similar to what Chroma has that are multiplicative. There aren't, and his ability is in fact on a similar level of power with multiplicative abilities that are in the game right now. 1, 2, 3, and it's gonna tick out, but I've been counting that as 4, so 4. 1, 2, 3. You know, these are all coming in at about the same level. I mean, obviously there are some differences. Some of these guys are having very little HP left on the last shot. And there's some variance from status, chance, and crit, of course. But they're in the same ballpark is the point I'm getting at here, right? And the abilities that would really go outside the same ballpark, like Venom Dose, Freeze Force, Fireball Frenzy, like if Ember uses Accelerant with Flash Accelerant on an ally that she is Fireball Frenzy, that is going to be well in excess of anything here that I've even talked about, except for Sonar. Nothing else competes with that. Like, maybe Ivara's Prowl does, but that's because you're headshotting people anyway when you're using it. So, you know, yeah. even Smite Infusion, Freeze Force, and Venom Dose are all very good. I mean, you can get them to around like 300% if you really, really stack it up there with max damage. So let's talk about this. I'm not necessarily saying that Chroma does not need a additional buff. His durability is definitely lower than where I would like it to be. I think if nothing else, a change to Chroma giving him more base armor would be in order. And I kind of hope we don't have to wait for like a Chroma Prime with double his current base armor to actually see any improvement in Chroma. Let's see, I don't think I have an armor boost right now. What is he at, 350? Yeah, it's because it goes off of base armor, your defensive armor buff is just not high enough anymore. Level 120 enemies wrecking your shit is a big problem for Chroma because he has to actually get hit by enemies to get his damage buff. So he needs to be able to tank more than he needs to be able to do damage, because if he can't tank, he can't even use the damage buff he does have, although it's less powerful than it was before, right? So yeah, that's kind of my stance on this. I think definitely his durability needs to be boosted in some way, whether that is by increasing his base armor on the regular frame, whether that's by making just the armor component multiplicative, although that would be hilarious with some allies since apparently the armor bonus is shared as well, or whether it's just increasing the percentile bonus he can get. I mean, if he can get 1200% bonus armor easily at the current power strength I'm at instead of 800%, that'll make him tankier to a higher tier. Really, I just want to see his EHP with a reasonable build surpass 50,000 again, which is a bit over the top, but it's reasonable enough that for most purposes, he'll be quite good again. I mean, obviously, level 125 enemies are a bit excessive, even for Sortie 3, right? There's not too many of them. I believe the range is like up to that high, but they don't all spawn in like that. So, you know, anyway. Where am I going with this? I'm not sure that actually making his ability multiplicative is in line with other abilities in the game. This would make him a much tankier frame than Banshee, who has a damage bonus not on a similar level as hers, but kind of effectively so, because of course Banshee, you're going to deal millions of damage, and it's just absolutely absurdly excessive, right? He would be his damage boost would be much stronger than anything in the game except for Banshee. Maybe that's appropriate, but I'm not sure it should be quite as high as it would be if you just made it multiplicative again. Yeah, I think that covers it, and I hope this was helpful. I'm not necessarily 100% firm on what my opinion is and how he should be changed again, other than less weak than he is now, please. But I wanted to point that out, that I think that a lot of the comparisons made here are not appropriate, and that for many of the things that he's being compared to now, DE was completely truthful and correct when they said that they brought this ability in line with other abilities on Warframes that are similar to it, right? It's in line not just with other non-multiplicative abilities, but it's in line with most of the multiplicative abilities as well. So that was something I didn't really think was true until I tested it, so I thought that might be interesting to show in a video. Thank you all for watching.